All right, we can go. Go ahead, Palm. Tracks 57. Yes.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tidal Flooding Talk. This is the second episode since we brought it back. I'm here with Joe Martucci, and soon to be Dan Skeldon will be joining us. We're brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition and being produced by Triax 57. And we're here to talk about all things coastal flooding. And tonight I think we'll talk a little bit about how tidal flooding, coastal flooding is a year-round threat here at the Jersey Shore and all of New Jersey. So I think that Joe and Dan will give us a little insight as to the different flooding that occurs throughout the year, and especially during the winter when our guard is down, what we should be aware of that could happen when it comes to flooding.
Yes. And I'm just, sorry, I was just making a message there. Thank you to everybody for watching tonight. We're trying to clean up some things from last week, and I hope you guys enjoy what we have going on here. Yeah, I mean, you know, we were texting Palma, you, me, and Dan earlier, and, you know, they really haven't seen much coastal flooding this month, and that's a good thing, or I should say in January. It's now the 4th of February, but since the beginning of the year, and that's a good thing. We really haven't seen much in the way of coastal storms. We're going to let Dan Skeldon come on in a second. I think he's hopping into his Zoom just about now. Let's see if we can get him in. And we'll chat with him. But like we said, it's a, you know, it is a year-round thing. Most of it's happening this time of the year during the winter with, you know, coastal storms and everything. And that's why we say, oh.
Work on those snow days for you.
Dan,
yeah,
you're...
that's good. I appreciate that.
Looks like Dan is hanging out with some people in the newsroom. Dan's broadcasting from WFMZ in Allentown here. We'll wait for him to come in. What's that?
I think he was talking about snow.
He was. Up his way in Lehigh Valley. We're looking for snow over there. Really a wintry mix of snow. Not so much for us, but like I was saying, you know, we really have a 12-month hurricane season here in New Jersey when you think about the coastal flooding and the storm surge that we have. Hurricane season runs from June through November. And then, you know, nor'easters pretty much start back up, you know, right into December, and it rolls till about April, sometimes even May. And then we start back up with hurricane season. So, you know, we always want to, you know, be on guard here. That's what the Coastal Coalition is doing by bringing together all these towns and, you know, from up and down the Jersey Shore and talk about common sense solutions to tidal flooding, whether it's you know, pump stations or canals or the way that we're building our shorelines. You know, there's plenty of different topics we can cover here, Palma.
Right, and it even starts with just, you know, a homeowner. They may not know where to turn of how they could make their property more resilient, flood resilient. And, you know, you could just start by simply contacting your city's floodplain administrator, or, you know, contacting a land surveyor who prepares elevation certificates. These professionals can give recommendations on how to make your property safer when it comes to preparing for floods. Because, you know, just because we're giving all of this information and saying how, you know, scary flooding can be sometimes, it shouldn't stop people from coming here or living here. There are ways to build up your property and make it safer.
Yeah, and you know, one of the tools that we have is the community rating system through FEMA. You know, and that's on a class basis. So you get points, and then however many points you have determines, you know, what class you're in. So class 10 is 0% off for your residents on flood insurance. Then we go all the way to 1, which is 45%. We said last week that Avalon and Sea Isle City, you know, they both have class 3 ratings. Those are the highest in New Jersey. Cape May County's doing something right down there. But, you know, many towns, Margate, Ventnor, Seaside, you know, going up to Seabright, you know, they all have class ratings, typically around like a 6 or a 5, which gets some good discounts on their flood insurance as well. So if you're tuning in from the shore, more than likely you're getting a discount on your flood insurance, and it's because of the work that the town is doing. But of course, you know, you as the individual, there's always steps you could take to prevent against, you know, coastal flooding. Some of it is mandated, right? Raising your house if you live in a flood-prone area. But some of the tasks you can take on yourself. Palma, I know you're right by the water, right? I don't know. Do you have anything special that you guys do to protect against the tidal flooding that comes in?
Well, luckily, our street is a little bit higher than some of my neighboring streets that I've seen, have a lot of impact from the flooding. And, it, like you were saying, with the CRS, it's no easy feat. Like, I know from working through it as well, like every town that participates in the community rating system, not only do they need to recertify every year, but then there is a more intensive certification process that happens either every 5 years or 3 years, depending on the class that you're in. I know Margate's in a class 5.
Oh, good, Palma.
Is at a class 5, which is 25% discount, and there is so much involved for each municipality to, review all of their elevation certificates to make sure that they're compliant for every new house or home elevation that happens that year, every year. And the public outreach, which luckily the New Jersey Coastal Coalition is helping all of the communities with that.
Yeah, and let's just take a step back a little bit. What are elevation certificates, Palma? Because I know a little bit, but you would know more than I would, being in building.
Well, just to to summarize it, it is a document that is prepared by a New Jersey licensed land surveyor. It is not prepared by the municipality. A lot of times people that call us think that the town supplies this document, but really it only gets submitted to us. And then we need to make sure that it does comply with the FEMA standards. And this document really is property specific. A lot of times someone will think, oh, well, my neighbor has one, let me just use theirs, or do you have my neighbor's? I'm sure it's the same. But really it's not, because the surveyor will actually look to see if you have flood vents, and they'll look at the lowest.
Oh.
The lowest elevation.
I think Dan's trying to hop in with the video, but I think he's having both video and audio issues. So anyway, keep going, Palma. We'll chat with Dan when he comes back on.
Sure. So on that elevation certificate, it will also document, where your HVAC is located. Is it, below the BFD? Is it above? And every town also has their.
And you say BFD, not to stop you. You said BFD, right?
BFE.
BFE, and what is that for everybody?
Base flood elevation.
Right.
Which is a FEMA term, but then each town may also have something that is even stricter than that. So that might be called like a DFE, which is a design flood elevation.
Okay. And just in Margate, are there any areas that do have that design flood elevation?
Well, there are different, when you look at the flood map, there are different areas, different flood zones, right? But after that, there's like the town can add on like a +4 feet.
Okay.
So if your flood zone is 8, then you would add 4 to that if that's what the town's flood requirement is.
So that means that then, your base flood elevation has to be 12 feet in that case.
Right. And I'm not, a surveyor or anything like that, but this is just my experience from what I review.
Right.
That comes in the office. And there is a lot to it, and the codes change. They change frequently enough that we are constantly looking at it. Okay. So that's why a lot of towns have said, okay, BFE +4. This way they're kind of ahead of the game if the flood, the regulations the regulations do change.
Okay. And who's changing those regulations? What level of government is that happening?
Well, it's definitely higher than the local government,
Right.
right? So it even goes to FEMA.
Right.
So that's federal at that point.
Now, and this has been a thing probably for 2 years now. The NJ Department of Environmental Protection is looking to pass, regulations that would increase the BFE, the base flood elevation, by an additional 5 feet up and down the Jersey Shore. Is that something that you guys are aware of? And
Well, that's
yeah,
that's kind of exactly what I was referring to. Of like they do change, and that's exactly where it does come from. So yeah, that's what a lot of towns have to consider when they do make these requirements for their elevation.
right. But we're not doing anything yet because it's not an official regulation at this point.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So what do you hear? And maybe this, I'm not trying to get political about this, but like, what do you hear from people within the town about this?
Well, I don't think that I hear anything negative. We want our properties to be safe from flood. And of course, like personally, of course it is like, it's heartbreaking sometimes seeing the character change of certain properties, even in Atlantic City, like seeing properties be torn down that, we're used to a certain way of development, and then to see things being built up, it is a big change for a lot of people, but at the same time, you have to consider that being out of flood is important.
Right. Yeah, and and this isn't my idea. Someone told me this. Scott Mazzella, who wrote Great Storms of the Jersey Shore, the second edition, he helped contribute to that, and he had a good point. He said after every major coastal flooding event at the Jersey Shore, we're talking on the historic generational proportion, the shore has changed. And the most recent 3 are the Great Hurricane of 1944, then the 1962 nor'easter, the Ash Wednesday storm. Some people call it the High 5 storm because there were 5 high tides that flooded, and then Sandy in 2012. And you go from, especially that from the time before and after that 1962 storm, you got to a place where the shore became very populated quickly as land values went down. People rushed in to buy those, that property and the damaged homes, and then built it up into, more or less the Jersey Shore you see today in terms of the tourism economy and the number of people who are at the shore. Of course, the Garden State Parkway was developed at that time, which was like, the number one driver. I think I've said it is the most important road in New Jersey, more important than the Turnpike. But then you had Sandy, and Sandy really took this, to the next level, literally, with a lot of these houses now being raised. And, you kind of went from those bungalows to, I'll say, regular houses at the shore, where a number of these towns have, the mega mansions and the houses that are, 5, 10, maybe 12 feet higher, where the garage is on that first floor and there is an elevator up there. Is that kind of what you're saying, to your point, or to what you were saying earlier, Palma, about some of the areas changing?
Definitely, absolutely. And it is like houses are required to be built at a certain elevation, and that's not just at the local level, it goes beyond that. So yes, it is heartbreaking. Like I like vintage looks of almost everything, so of course I hate to see some of these, the classic homes going, but I understand that it's a safety issue, and people's value of people's homes, if they're going to be damaged by a storm, it's a new way of living at the shore.
Yeah, and I don't even know if you can answer this. So if you say no, I'm not offended. But like, how much does it cost to like raise a home? Like, do you have like some numbers about like how much it costs, and like what's the difference between raising like a bungalow as opposed to raising, a 3-story home or one of those, those big houses. Even I'm just thinking of, Atlantic City over towards Chelsea, or, some of those big houses you see in Seabright or, Manilokin.
Right. Well, I have not had to actually, price out a job like that. I only see it on, after that part. But I know that there is a lot that goes into it. How old is the home? What is the structural integrity of it? Are they going to rehab it completely? It really depends on a lot of things. If I were to guess, I'm sure it would start at, 100,000, but that's something people would need to contact, a contractor for, and ask them to provide them with an estimate for something like that. And of course, they have architects and engineers that are also involved in that process. And also, I also would like to let people know that when you do decide to, elevate your home or anything really, to do your homework on who you're hiring.
Yeah.
It's a shame when people do hire somebody and they're not actually insured or have a license. I don't think that would happen for a house lift because you need permits and we would know if they have a license. But for other projects too, you should check with the New Jersey Department of Consumer Affairs, Division of Consumer Affairs, to see if the contractor does have a valid license, if there's any complaints against them, anything like that, just to help you stay informed with who you're hiring.
Sure.
To do something like that.
Sure. And, I just kind of going off of the Sandy thing, I think, this next phase of the Jersey Shore is turning a lot of these towns into little cities. If, and hopefully we don't get a Sandy or some kind of significant major flooding for a long time. But I have a feeling, when we do get to the, when this is going to happen, because it will happen, that, even some of these regular houses, not even the bungalows, but those regular colonial type homes or whatever they may be, kind of get pushed aside, and we start building hotels. Like we're seeing, we've seen that already in Long Branch and in Asbury Park, where they are cities right along the beach. Ocean City's had talks about, building hotels there as well, and even Seaside Heights, at this point, building condos and building more of that high density housing. I just feel like that's like the next phase of the Jersey Shore. And it's, it's slowly happening now. I just have a feeling, if I'll say when rather that big storm comes, that's kind of the next phase. And I think it's part because some of these, homeowners, might not want to take that risk of, living in a floodplain area, or even the insurance. I mean, I'm not an insurance expert, but I know, we've seen the news reports about Florida and how, they're stopping insuring people. It's just getting too expensive to insure, and even in California. So, the Coastal Coalition does a great job of getting these communities together and mitigating against, do a really good job of mitigating against this, the sunny day type flooding and your minor flood stage, even your moderate flood stage. But we have to be cognizant of the fact that, when it's a major, major storm, you could have a lot of barrier protections, right? But that water still, is going to try to come in. After all, we are on the barrier island. But again, the Coastal Coalition really gets everyone together and talks about how we can reduce that risk for more of that, that nuisance or moderate stage type of flooding, that we get more regularly. Sandy's and the 62 storm comes, on a once every couple of decades basis, but we get many times a year, 2-3 dozen times a year where we're getting some kind of coastal flooding. And I think with that, I think I talked too much. Should I pass it over to Dan? Dan, are you here with us?
Dan is with us now, so that's good.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm fashionably late.
That's right, and you are fashionable, so that's the important part.
Well, call it a perfect storm of my IT department kicking out my audio cable, a Girl Scout tour, touring the studio in the Weather Center at 6:45, asking a lot of questions. I promise from here on out I'll be more focused and the schedule will be clear at 7 o'clock.
Well, you can't say no to the Girl Scouts. Can't.
Yeah, did you at least get cookies out of the deal, or how was that?
I got 2 boxes of Adventure Food, so my favorite.
Okay. Yeah, I just got an email last week about somebody who we know. They're selling Girl Scout cookies. So I guess 'tis the season. Yeah,
Well,
go ahead, Palma.
my stepdaughter is selling Girl Scout cookies, so my kitchen has boxes and boxes, and I already am marked down for 5 because I feel like every other day I'm just casually picking up another box of Girl Scout cookies. So,
I remember reading a story. I don't know. I'm going to get the story probably half wrong, but there was like this Girl Scout maybe 10 years ago who had like a garage full of boxes and has like, she's like the most sold Girl Scout cookie person in Girl Scout history. And she won like I almost want to say she won like a car or something because she sold so many darn cookie boxes. It was like 14,000 boxes or something crazy like that. But
it helps keep you through the winter, right? They retired my favorite flavor. I love the s'mores. I was a s'mores guy forever. For some reason, they retired it. I hope they bring it back. If I keep on writing the letters, maybe they will. And they help you warm you up and get you through the winter. And since I was having the technical difficulties, don't know if you touched on it, Joe and Palma, but this is probably the most active part of the winter coming up.
Yeah.
If we get some coastal storms. A pretty good quiet winter for that, but I think there's a lot of activity saved for the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, we didn't get. I was waiting for you before we got a little more hardcore into weather, but let's excuse me. Let's dive into it. Dan, what you're alluding to is especially the second half of February does look to be active for us here. Especially for you. I mean, even tomorrow night into Thursday, right? I mean, you got a wintry mixed bomb coming into the Lehigh Valley. For us at the Jersey Shore, it's less than an inch of snow, coatings of ice in spots. The immediate shore, I don't even think gets any ice, and then it flips over to plain rain. So it's not really our storm. It's not Palma and I's winter storm. It's more of Dan's storm. So I'm sorry to, we're sorry to put that on you.
I get what you're saying. It's not even mine. I hate the mixed stuff. It's messy, it's sloppy, it's icy, it can't snow, it's crusted over. I think our storm is a storm that's all snow, and we're going to eye up right next Tuesday night and Wednesday, maybe for something more significant for everybody, perhaps from the South Jersey Shore all the way up into North Jersey, PA, about a week from now. Tuesday night, we could have a very interesting show on it.
We very much could, yeah, and it does look like the whole that into the second half of February pattern looks, favorable for some winter storms. We are going to watch out next week. But to your point, Dan, I mean, most of these storms, if they have been coastal storms, they've been fairly weak and not bringing much in the way of coastal flooding, which has been good here for the Jersey Shore. We're going to hope it stays that way. Although, Dan, as you know, I'm a snow lover. I know you love snow too. So, maybe if there's a way we can squeeze.
I know there's nuisance flooding, but is there nuisance snow? Because I feel like if it doesn't, stop me from leaving the house, driving anywhere, it's just a nuisance.
Yeah, I call them festive flakes.
I like it. I think everyone has their own definition of nuisance snow. I think for some, any snowflake of any amount is a nuisance, right? But others, it's a certain criteria. But and then nuisance snow, sleet, ice comes in this week, and then next week, maybe some bigger storms. While we don't want the tidal flooding, and it's been a pretty good winter for that, South Jersey's in a severe drought.
Yeah.
A lot of the Mid-Atlantic is in some type of drought. So whether it be snow or ice or rain, we really need a precipitation. Hopefully it doesn't come with any tidal flooding, but we are in desperate need, and we got to chip away at this drought before the spring, or else agriculturally it's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, I've written about this. It'll be in Shore Local magazine this Thursday about, it's not over yet, but we're in the second half of winter here in terms of getting a good amount of precipitation. We are in a drought warning in the state of New Jersey. The next stage is a drought emergency. That more than likely comes with some kind of mandatory water restrictions. And the last time we had that was 2002. And it doesn't, when it's January, February, it's gloomy, it's cold. It doesn't feel like drought, but if it, we just had the third or the fourth driest January on record per the New Jersey state climatologist, Dave Robinson. So, we're going to look out for there. I'm going to tell you what. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, when you're in a drought, you're not going to be in a coastal storm. So, if you're in a drought, I guess the plus is you don't get much tidal flooding, at least significant stuff. You get the new moon, full moon, lucid stuff that Palma mentioned. But, if you take away the drought, odds are you're going to be chipping away at the drought. You're probably going to be in a big storm, and then the tidal flooding risk does go up. So we'll see what happens in February and March.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dan, I'll tell you what, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we're already at a half hour of time for this. I think we're going to wrap it on up. We were told to keep it at a tight half hour, but we'll have plenty of you next week, Dan. We'll make it the Dan show next Tuesday.
No. The
Dan show.
So I will be on time next week, I promise.
That's right.
You dock me about days pay,
Okay. Well, you got to talk to the boss. Don't talk to me. You still get paid in my book, but you got to talk with our executive director, Tom Quirk, on that one. Palma, any last words about the coalition before we wrap it up?
Yes. So again, we're brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, which was formed after Hurricane Sandy by a group of local municipalities, but now we're through the entire state. And since we did talk about, elevating homes and, doing things to make your home more flood resilient, I'll end by saying building above flood levels isn't just smart, it can save you thousands in insurance premiums and protect your home from flood damage. Elevate your home even 1 foot higher than the minimum requirement, and don't forget to elevate equipment like air conditioners too. Plan ahead, build responsibly, and gain peace of mind during the next flood.
Awesome. And with that, good information, Palma. We will be back next Tuesday with Tidal Flooding Talk. You can catch us Tuesdays at 7 o'clock live. You can find us on the New Jersey Coastal Coalition's Facebook page, on Trax57.com, Jersey Shore Streaming News Network, on my Facebook page, on Dan's Facebook page, on our YouTube channels. There's a lot of different ways to watch Tidal Flooding Talk. So we're trying to get out everywhere here. Eventually, we'll bring on guests as well. We're just working out some of the kinks with the process here. But for Palma and Dan and me, Joe Martucci, we'll talk with you guys next week. And thanks for watching Tidal Flooding.